Hi, everyone. It's Tracy Kawa from American SPCC with another episode of A Brighter Future Starts Here. Our guest today is Erica Waski, and she's here to discuss ACEs awareness. What's your score? Thank you so much for joining us today, Erica. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this is such an important topic. So, for our audience members who may not even know what ACEs are, can you define ACEs for us?
Yeah, of course. So ACEs are adverse childhood experiences. So they're traumatizing, potentially uh, bad events that happen in your childhood. So they can actually be linked to adverse issues later on in life. So it can be anything like different forms of abuse, neglect. If your parents went through a divorce, maybe you had a parent who was in and out of jail. All of those things can be adverse childhood experiences.
And even, with the ACEs that's regarding the divorce, one child might react a certain way where
Right.
another child reacts differently to it. So it's really the event that causes the trauma and then how the child responds to it, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So everybody, even if you have 100 people who have divorced parents, not every single person is going to relate the same way or process the same way. So it's really about how the child at the time internalizes these events and processes them, and even has somebody to talk to kind of process what's going on and what's happening. So that the inability to process these things correctly is what can lead to trauma, and then your body is just not really processing how the issue that went on, so that can lead to negative impacts later in life.
Right. The psychological affects the physiological, and even
Correct. Yeah.
some physical events, some physical traumas.
Yeah,
That's
so physical things like, I mean, it can be related to chronic pain issues, to heart disease, asthma, learning disorders, anxiety, depression. Yeah, because the toxic stress, which is essentially what these events are, they change the way that your brain and your body just develop. So if you have a kid who has a lot of these adverse childhood experiences, their brain is just constantly stressed out. Their brain is constantly thinking around, like, am I going to be in danger again? So um, it really is, it does definitely impact somebody's development.
wow. How
Mhm.
would a person find out their ACEs score?
So through the organization that I work with, part of my job is ACEs awareness in my community. So we created a online link tree. So the first button at the very top, if you want to go to it, you can actually get your ACEs score right then and there. But luckily, there's a lot of resources online too. So a couple of my favorite websites are ACES Too High, or there's also numberstory.org. So if you just go right into Google and you type in "find my ACE score," you'll probably have a lot of good options out there, which is
Wow.
really nice.
Thank you for sharing that with us. So, why is it important for every individual to know their ACEs score?
So it's really important because I think that awareness is the key, just kind of being able to have that power to reflect back on your childhood. Just in terms of, okay, maybe I had what I thought was like a typical childhood. But, maybe there were things that did happen in my life that actually, it still are impacting me today. Um, and so it's thinking from it from a parenting standpoint as well. It's good for me as a parent to know what these experiences are. And then I could, have the power to be like, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't be yelling at my kids often, or, just different things like that, that kind of give me a different mindset in order to prevent my children's future ACEs.
You bring up something so important, even as a parent, where we think we're doing our best job as we're going along. There can be an event or situation that doesn't phase us
Yeah.
necessarily as an adult, but we never really know how our child is processing it until we speak to them on their level
Mhm.
about it. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that even just a parent being aware of that is just the best thing that you can do, because a ton of research has shown, even it's, if somebody has experienced all 10 ACEs, they can still turn out to be a productive member of society. But it's because they've had that person in their life, either a parent or a teacher or a mentor, somebody that, like, an older trusted adult that actually helps them understand what's going on, so they don't have to actually like process things by themselves as a kid.
That's
um,
great.
yeah,
Somebody to help them process and make sense of what's going on, help them deal with their emotions, their
exactly.
feelings. Wow. So tell us, Erica, what are the top 10 ACEs?
So this list is based off a study done by the CDC and Kaiser back in the 90s. So they did a massive data collection and of people in, I believe it was California, and so they try to figure out what the top, adverse childhood experiences are. So there are other ones that aren't on the list, but these are the top 10. And so, actually, if anybody wants to follow along, and while I'm listing them off, you can put a finger up for every one that you have experienced. So then by the end of this, you can actually see what your ACEs score is.
Wow. So are these the same 10 questions that would be asked on any ACEs
Pretty
test?
much, yeah. So since
Wow.
there are a lot of different worded questions out there, it's all relatively the same information. Just some of the questions will be asked differently.
Okay,
But if you go to our link tree, these are the specific questions that would be asked.
got it.
Yeah. Okay. So number one, did a parent often swear at you, insult you, threaten you, or humiliate you? So that is emotional abuse.
Okay.
So that number two, did a parent ever often push, slap, grab, or throw something at you or injure you? And so that would be physical abuse.
Erica, I'm wondering how they define the word often.
Often would
Ever
be,
or often?
it would be often. So it couldn't just be like a one time thing. Maybe, you were screamed at by your mom because she was stressed out, or, you know, dad hit you once. And so that's like an isolated incident. We're really focusing on something that's more of common. So this is kind of like repeated.
Repeated
Yeah.
behavior?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. So number three, did a parent or an adult 5 years older than you ever touch you, fondle you in a sexual way? So that would be sexual abuse.
Okay.
Number four, did you often feel that nobody in your family loved you, or thought that you were important or special, or that your family supported each other? Which that one's a pretty tough one.
Yeah, that one's heartbreaking. Not to
Because
say that they're not. They are all heartbreaking in their own way.
Yeah, and I think that just speaks to the, if you don't have anybody to actually process, bad things that happen in your life, or you feel like, the people who love you and support you, they're supposed to, they don't, that
Yeah,
just, sets you up for a future
yeah,
of heartbreak.
yeah.
um, so number five, did you often feel that you didn't have enough to eat, you didn't have enough clothes, or you didn't have enough food, or nobody to protect you? So that is considered neglect. Number six, were your parents ever separated or divorced? Or if one of the parents or guardians was frequently in and out of the household, that's just would be considered divorce. Um, Number seven, this is if you ever witnessed your mother or the female head of household being physically, emotionally, or verbally abused. So research showed that if children see the female head of household be abused, that was very damaging to the children's psyche and development as well. Number eight, would be, did you ever live with anyone who had a substance abuse issue, an alcohol problem, or a drug
Mm.
problem? And that could be anyone in the household, not just a parent or guardian. Number 9, was a household member ever um, having a mental health issue, like a recurring mental health issue that really like impacted them or the family, or did a family member ever attempt suicide?
Wow.
And then finally, number 10, did a household member ever go to prison? So those are the top 10 things. So for every number or every finger that you have up, that would be your ACE score. So hopefully you have a number from either 0 to 10.
From 0 to 10.
Mhm.
So, it's interesting because even, I'm sitting here listening to the questions. Of course, I'm counting my own aces, going into the conversation thinking, no, I don't have any aces,
Right.
right? And then, but lo and behold, there they are. They
Mhm.
arise because I guess we just don't naturally think that if a situation wasn't like clear and present and dangerous right up front and close and in your face, we don't think of some things as
Mhm.
trauma,
Right.
but indeed they are,
Right.
because it's really, once again, all about the way a child processes
Mhm.
information, and
Yep.
children don't always know what to do with that information.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think it's so beneficial for everybody, even, my grandparents, I encourage them to take the ACE score just because,
Yeah,
yeah, I think as a society, we don't really talk about these types of things, especially in terms of children as well. You just kind of think, oh, they're kids, they're fine, they'll get over it. Or they're
yeah.
not listening or they didn't see that. But kids are absorbing everything. They're little sponges.
Everything. Everything, I can attest to that,
Yeah.
especially the things you don't want them to hear. They're just
Yeah, my
ears.
gosh, exactly.
Yeah,
So even just like little things, imagine how much they're picking up on just in terms of if they see a
sure.
loved one being abused,
Mhm.
or if they see, like their parents continually talking about divorce, or somebody has a substance abuse issue. All of this, even if it's not outwardly verbal or
Yeah,
seen, like kids feel stuff.
yeah, or arguing or bickering,
Mhm.
constant bickering that you think isn't damaging, but indeed in the long run it is. So here we are. We've counted our aces. What do we do? What do the numbers mean? What do we do? What do we do? What's the next step? Up. Did your screen freeze? Oh, you may have to log off and log back in. So, for everybody out there who's listening and watching, thank you so much for joining us on A Brighter Future Starts Here. We are with Erica Waske.
So a basic caveat,
Oh, there we go. There we go. Your screen froze. Your
oh no,
screen.
I'm sorry. I
I
was like,
was
what's
just
going on?
I was rebooting the room, letting everybody know that we're here with Erica Waske, and we're talking about ACEs, what they are, and counting our ACE score.
Mhm.
So, as you were saying, Erica, we now have our number. We've answered the 10 questions, we've counted our ACEs. Now what? What do the numbers mean? What do we do with this information?
Okay, so on a very basic level, the higher number of ACEs that you have typically translates to your risk for outcomes, like unhealthy outcomes later in life. So if you have a score of maybe like 4 or more, you're at a significantly higher risk of heart disease or asthma, COPD, depression, obesity, all that kind of things, just like later on in life. So what you can do with this ACE score is be able to bring it to if you see a therapist or a doctor, and you can kind of talk about them with your person that you feel most comfortable with, and you can say, "Hey, I didn't really realize that I had actually like a lot of trauma in my childhood, and maybe that's why I have chronic anxiety. Maybe that's why I have fibromyalgia." Just kind of being aware of, it might not all be in your head. It might not be just genetics. It might not just be, personality stuff. It could
Sure.
really, truly be something that you can actually address and try to heal from. So, and that's just something that I think is just so powerful, is being able to take our own lives into our hands. And then also then preventing future ACEs for our children and the future generations, I think is just pretty powerful.
Incredible. Yeah, the awareness first and
Mhm.
foremost is half the battle.
Yeah.
So we can be much more aware of how we speak to each other, how we treat each other, how couples treat each other, how parents treat the children. Uh,
Right.
you said something really interesting, which really led me to think about, how much of our illnesses or diseases or health conditions are psychosomatic, and there
Mhm.
is a large link between what happens in our brains and what happens in our bodies.
Right.
And I thank you for bringing that up, because that was really an incredible point. So what you're basically talking about is taking our ACEs score and then going to seek out the proper professional help.
Yes.
Like you said, is it your doctor? Is it a therapist? Is it a coach? Is it a psychiatrist? Who is that
Mhm.
person that you need on your team in order to walk you and talk you through some of these traumaful events
Exactly.
that maybe you haven't completed
Hmm.
processing. So that's for all of our listeners. Take your
Hmm.
scores and seek the proper help.
Yep.
Erica, how did you personally become so passionate about this subject of ACEs?
Well, besides it being my job, because I am a program coordinator to bring ACEs awareness to our community, it's just pretty much like my life, just
Yeah,
because I think ACEs have impacted myself, but also my friends, my family, just in
sure.
more ways that I can count. So it was kind of just a nice little happenstance that my passions just also correlated with the job that I have now, and so I can really use my experiences, my knowledge from my days as a school counselor to help bring awareness to the families and the communities, around us. So it really is kind of, it's just not like a paycheck for me. This really is just like my life's passion, my life's purpose.
That's amazing. I love it. I love it. Good for you. And good for you for finding that
Yeah.
passion and purpose and for helping others with that. So, what are you and the Springboard Community Services doing to create ACEs awareness? What kind of programs? What's happening?
Yeah, so that's my job, Springboard Community Services. We are a nonprofit organization based in Baltimore, Maryland. So we do outpatient mental health and community programs for the people in Baltimore City and then four of the surrounding counties. So I am based in a county, it's Hartford County, that is about 30 minutes north of Baltimore. So that is kind of where all of my focus lies, based on that's where me and my family live. That is where most of our friends are, so this is important to me on, a personal level as
Yeah.
well. So we are doing a ton, really honestly, in terms of bringing awareness and resources to the community.
Awesome. Good for you guys. That's
Thanks.
awesome.
Yeah. So, obviously, like besides my program, we really focus on doing ACEs screenings for every single one of our clients, for our therapy clients, and then also our case management, which is kind of like social work, community support. So we do ACEs screenings on them, but also their family members as well. So our clinicians and our case managers, they talk to our clients about, some of the negative impacts that their traumatic experiences in their childhood can, are relating to their behaviors or relating to, their lives now. And then we're also pushing to get ACEs screening into all schools and pediatricians' office.
Amazing.
Yeah. So Maryland's has recently passed some legislation back in the spring that's really trying to bring power and, really just, I mean, that awareness aspect to every single county in Maryland. And so we're really excited that
Yes.
hopefully, more people are going to get this information, more people are going to be able to be trauma informed. We can really kind of grow together and be, just like a trauma informed self-healing community. That would
That
be
sounds
that
incredible.
would be the goal.
That is the goal right there. That's the goal. I love it. Congratulations to you and the team at Springboard Community. You're doing an amazing job. I understand that California leads the way
Yes.
in in the ACES.
Yes, they have mandated that all pediatricians' offices be trained and also do ACEs screenings for the kids.
Got it.
Um,
And then
mhm.
Maryland is second, from what I
we
understand.
we are up there, probably top 5, I would say.
Okay. All right. All right. We can count it on one hand. So we
Yeah.
can do that.
Hmm.
That's fantastic. And it's great to know, and it's great to see organizations, fighting to break the cycle of
Yes,
abuse, right? We love.
exactly.
So, any final takeaways for our viewers?
I think the biggest takeaway would just be knowing that this knowledge of your ACEs score doesn't necessarily define you. You are not your ACEs score of 4 or whatever it is. It really is just one component of being able to be have a little bit more power in your mental and physical health. So knowing what you personally are at risk of, but then also being able to help prevent it for your children and try to reduce their risk of health and mental health issues as well moving forward. um, so it's really about, I think, just healing yourself, but then also figuring out how to being able to like raise a generation of healed kids, healed children, and us healing as just like a large community together. I think everybody has really, I think the pandemic has really affected all of us,
Mm,
and so it really seems that people are a lot more aware of mental health issues, or they really want to be more in charge of their own health and their own wellness. So I think that this is one, small way that people can do that, and then also really just like impacting the greater good as well.
I love how you said raising a generation of healed
Mhm.
kids, and then
Yeah.
the generation after that can be a generation. We're putting in the universe that it'll be a generation of kids with no aces at all.
Yeah.
With no aces.
I Yeah, or just, significantly less. Yeah, I put that into the universe every day.
Exactly. Exactly. So let's talk about those resources that you offer again. We're going to put up this link tree one
Sure.
more time. Thank you for all you do for raising awareness. And you also offer some training on parenting styles, I understand.
Yeah, so part of our programming for reducing and raising awareness for ACEs is to give free resources. And so one of which is a ACEs awareness training that we've recently finished up. So you can go on our link tree and you can click the request resources slash training button. And then there are two different options. One is kind of a more in depth, like 2 hour long training. That would probably be really good for like doctors or anybody who already has kind of like a background in trauma. And then we also offer a more abbreviated version that would be for parents or caregivers, kind of just like the really like nuts and bolts information that you kind of need in like 30 minutes or less. um, and then also, in addition to those trainings, we have created free flyers and pamphlets that are also on our link tree. So there's a brochure that has kind of a lot of information about what RACE is, what you can do about them, how to prevent them. It's everything that you could ever need to know about ACEs. And then we have a kind of more condensed version that we envision would go on somebody's fridge, so there's parenting tips and tricks. And then also just kind of a snapshot of what ACEs are and what they can lead to, just so you can kind of keep that in mind, when you're having a rough day after a long day of work and your kids are being a little crazy and you're just like, you know what? I need to remind myself to focus on me, take a deep breath. Don't take it out on the kids.
Yeah.
That might just be me, but
Take a pause for the cause.
yeah.
Take a deep
Yeah.
breath and just be cognizant
Hmm.
of how our actions and our words, what we say, what we do, can
Hmm.
have lasting effects on our children. So just
Definitely.
be very aware. Thank you so much, not only to you, but to Springboard for everything that you are all doing. I love how you have resources not only for parents, but for doctors, for teachers. You pretty much covered the gamut. Thank you for that,
Of
and
course. Thank you.
for being a stand for children in our society. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
A
Thank
pleasure
you for
having
having
you.
me.
Yeah, Erica, thank you so much. We appreciate it. So if you hang on just 1 second right there, I just want to tell our viewers thank you for listening today. If you like what you're hearing, we've got amazing resources in our Learning Center. Just go visit AmericanSPCC.org. And if you know someone making a difference, like Erica, in her community, please feel free to reach out to us at info@americanspcc.org. We want to hear about it, we want to highlight them, and we want to bring you the best of the best information, critical information affecting families and caregivers today and children, families, caregivers, and children in our community. So, again, thank you for joining us. And remember, a brighter future starts here.